Hello and welcome to the Electrician's Hangout. I had somebody ask me if I could do a video tutorial on running a sub panel or installing a sub panel. And as fate would have it, I actually ended up having one of my customers ask me to do a job for them. They actually needed some outlets upstairs. This is a church, and actually it's not my church, but the pastor of this church did marry me and my wife. She's a lovely person behind the camera there, but anyways, they asked me to install some outlets in an area of the church that didn't have any power accessible. And the most efficient and easiest way to get it done was to put in a sub panel. So actually, I've run the feeder cable. I'm going to set a 100 amp sub panel. What I wanted to do was, because I wanted to actually get this job done because I worked last night, but I do my best to try to make sure that the Electrician's Hangout stays up to date. And if somebody asks me to do a tutorial, I do my best to try to get it done. And I'm saying this is a perfect opportunity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here, because I haven't mounted the panel upstairs yet. After I finish showing you what's going on here in the main panel, I'll take you upstairs and let you know what I'm going to do up there. Then I'm going to stop the video, get the panel all mounted up there, and I'll videotape the actual hookup of the actual sub panel. But there are some rules that goes along with putting the sub panel in. And right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my best to show you what those rules are. Okay, first of all, I'm not sure how good you guys can see inside this panel. Come closer, sweetheart. What you have is, this is considered your main service panel. And inside your main service panel, you have what's called the main bonding jumper. And basically what that is, a whole lot of fancy stuff that's pretty much saying, this cable here comes in from the utility service. This is the meter. This cable here runs outside and gets hooked up to the utility line, comes through the meter, comes out of the meter, and to the panel here, to a main breaker, and to the bar here. This cable here, and these two cables, or these three cables right here, these two insulated black conductors, and they actually put tape around the stranded neutral. If you were to look at the bottom of the panel here, you can see that those wires are just bare wires. That's actually a neutral conductor, which you guys will see is the white wire in a circuit. When you bring the service in, the first thing you have to do is bond everything together. Your neutral, all your grounds, everything. And the way you do that is two things. In a residential service, and this is not really considered a residential service, but it's a really good example for you guys that's doing home projects, because it's set up like a home service, in the fact that you have two grounds coming in. If you look right here, you see two bare copper wires. These are the guys that's going to bond everything. One of these copper wires goes out to a ground rod that's driven in the ground, an 8-foot ground rod, and it's driven in the ground. And you put a clamp on it, and you connect this bare ground cable to it, and you bring it in here, and you put it on this bar. The second one, actually, if you can really notice, is, I don't know if you can see it from the video, this ground wire here is actually smaller than this one here. The smaller one is the one that's actually going to the ground rod, and it's a size 6 ground, and you never ever have to run anything bigger than that to a ground rod. However, your main ground, which is this one here, goes to a water pipe. And the main ground has to be sized according to a chart inside of Article 250. I can't remember the exact, it's in Article 2, all Article 250 is about grounding. But for this size service, which is a 200 amp service, the proper size for this ground is a number 2 ground, which is what this one is. If you notice, all of these bars are tied together and is also tied to the actual panel through this bond screw right here. So through continuity, this panel is at the same potential, which is ground. And as you can see, the bare neutral wire that comes in from the service cable, these two guys here are going to sub panel. I actually put a sub panel in this church at an earlier time, and that's what this one cable here is. And then the other cable is going to the panel that we just put in. But anyway, back down here, babe. If you notice, everything goes together. Everything's together. If you look at it electrically, there's a strip that goes across the bottom of the panel and connects to this bar on this side. It may be a little difficult to see, but it comes up right here and it goes underneath the bottom, comes out. This bond screw connects the panel. Everything's connected together. That's called your main bonding jumper. You can only have one main bonding jumper premise. And that main bonding jumper ends up going wherever your service cable lands, coming from your meter. Sometimes the meter can, and like say in apartment buildings and stuff like that, ends up being where you put your main bonding jumper. But that's a whole totally different type of tutorial. If we had a disconnect or something, a main disconnect switch, that would be where our main bonding jumper would go. But in this case, the service cable comes straight off of the utility company's meter and into the panel. So therefore, this main service panel is where your main bonding jumper is going to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the video off for a minute. We're going to go upstairs and we're going to take a look at the area where we're going to install the sub panel. Like I said, I already have the cable up there and drilled my hole through the wall. It's all set and ready to go. All I have to do is mount the panel. Then we can get into hooking it up. So I'm going to see you in 1 sec. All right, now we're in the upstairs area or the sanctuary of the church. Actually, there's a chase right here that I ran the cable through. And I don't want to bore you guys with running the cable and all that stuff. I mean, every situation is different. Say you were putting your sub panel in a garage, you would have to dig a trench maybe and run PVC, or, you know, if it's in a house, SCR cable, which is what I ran here, which is fine. The panel is going to actually go on the other side of this wall. I use this wall as a chase. So, come on back here. Okay, I'm going to set the panel right on this wall right here, and this is the SCR cable, number 2 SCR. Number 2 is aluminum, is good for 100 amps. So we're going to have a 100 amp sub panel here, and we're going to have a 100 amp main in the basement. The panel that I mount here is not going to have a main breaker in it. I'm going to mount what's called a main lug panel, because the disconnect switch for this particular panel is going to be downstairs in the main panel that I showed you guys a little earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, get this panel mounted up, get the cable in there. That way we can go ahead and hook it up together, so you guys, and I can show you what I showed you what the main bonding jumper looks like. When we run a sub panel, things are going to look a little bit different, and I'm going to show you exactly how they go when I come back. Thank you. All right, so I've got my panel all mounted up here. She's nice and level and nice and tight. She ain't going nowhere. She's good to go. What I'll do now is we're going to go ahead and proceed to tie everything in up here. I tried to do as much as I could so that I wouldn't burn up a lot of time on the video there. Plus I'm in a rush. I worked all night last night. I worked third shift. So I worked 10 at night to 6 in the morning. So when I got off, I came here to knock this job off. But no excuse. I want to give you guys some good quality information that you can use to help you on your next project. And anyways, enough of that rambling. I'm tired, that's why I'm rambling. So as I showed you guys, we have this is going to be a 100 amp sub panel, and I ran number 2 SER cable. SER cable is different than the service cable that you've seen downstairs. If you remember, it had 2 insulated conductors and 1 bare conductor in a cable that went into the main service panel downstairs. That particular type of cable is called SEU cable. So normally, if you're going to run a cable down the wall for your service, SEU cable is the type cable that you would use. It has 2 insulated conductors and a bare neutral. Now, if you're going to run a sub panel, which actually brings me into those important tips that I was telling you guys about, you run what's called SER cable if you're not running conduit. If you're running a actual cable, SER cable would be what you would use. And with SER cable, you have 4 conductors. You have 2 insulated conductors, and as you can see, the neutral conductor, which is this wire with the white stripe going along there, which is going to be my neutral. And then you have your 2 phase conductor. But the neutral, as you notice here, is insulated. Not like what you saw downstairs. And there's a reason for that. I'm going to get into it in a minute. I bought a main lug panel here. I feel like Square D cheated me because right now the way it's set up like an actual main breaker panel. Being that both of the bars in here are tied together, and they actually give you a bond screw. I knew I was forgetting something. I was trying to remember everything. It fell on the floor here. Normally, if this was a service panel, we'd put the bond screw in and it would go here. However, this is a sub panel. We're not putting a bond screw in here. We're going to actually let these 2 bars be our neutral bar. In a sub panel, the neutral bar does not get connected to the panel or bonded to the panel at all. The neutral actually floats. The ground, like I was saying before, I feel like Square D cheated me here. It's a Homeline panel, so it's one of their cheaper models. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. What I'm going to do in this situation is I'm going to add a bar in, because my ground bar and my neutral, the grounds and the neutrals, this will be the ground here, and this will be a neutral here. They have to be separated. They can't be on the same bar. They have to be electrically isolated. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to show you guys, if you get a ground kit that's made for the panel that you purchase, like this particular ground bar is made for a Square D panel. It'll fit either a QO or a Homeline style Square D panel. And what ends up happening is, it's probably really hard to see with the camera, but you have little notches here. These notches allow you to line your ground bar up with the holes. Now I'm going to set them on this hole, and this middle one here is actually where the notch is. Now I'm going to snug that guy down a little bit there. Let me see something there. Okay. 1 second here. Okay. He actually wants to go on the other side. So we're not going to fight him. We'll put him on the other side. But actually, we should have been able to go on either side. It really shouldn't have mattered. But just out of curiosity, let's see. Yep, he definitely wants to go on this side. So we're going to go here, and my notch lines up in the middle there. I tell you, this Square D panel is really vexing me. But basically, the notch is gonna go in this middle side here. If you can zoom in there, babe. You got a notch right there. And that notch is what's gonna keep this guy from moving around. So once I set them down on there, I have a screw that goes on the bottom there. It should have worked on either side. I'm not exactly sure what their logic was with that. My guess would be that you have different size bars. You have a 7-inch bar, a 9-inch bar, and I believe a 4-inch bar. So one of the other size bars, one of the other size ground bars may be actually made to be mounted up on that particular side of the panel. But we're not gonna worry about that. Like I told you guys, I've been working all night, so I really just wanna get them done. So we're gonna tighten this guy on down, like so. And there we have our ground bar installed. So now the ground bar is electrically connected to the panel, and any ground wires that gets run goes to this bar here. And any neutrals that gets run is going to go here. So I want to do one more thing so that you guys can see how to strip these cables. It's really, really, really easy. And the way I do it is I put my knife, razor knife, at a really, really, really steep angle like so. And I use my thumb to push them on down like so. Now, I actually didn't go a little too deep enough there, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back over and hit them like so. Now, all I have to do really is run my razor knife around the cable like so, only just scoring them, so that now when I pull it off, it comes right off like so, as you can see. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna hook these wires up, and then I'll bring you guys back and we'll do a final walkthrough of this thing real quick, and I'll show you what everything is, and that'll be that. You'll know how to install a sub panel. So I'll be right back. Okay guys, back one more time, and just to show you guys, it's all tied in. And like I showed you guys before I tied it all in with a sub panel, you know, the one thing you want to keep in mind is you want to keep your grounds and your neutrals isolated from each other. That's why, you know, we didn't take and put the bond screw in, because we don't want these bars here bonded to the actual panel. We want the neutral bars to float, okay? The ground bar itself, which is here, is bolted right into the panel. So it's definitely bonded with the actual can of the panel, and that's where all your grounding conductors will go, and all your neutrals go here. And the only other thing is I use some Penetrox on the connections. I like to use Penetrox because it assures me, and all Penetrox is an anti-inhibitor, and what it does is it keeps especially when you make, say, aluminum to copper connections, is when you really, really have to have that, because two dissimilar metals joining together is going to cause oxidation, which is a fancy name, scientific name for rust. But it'll start breaking the cable down, and you end up with loose connections. Loose connections causes arcs, arcs causes heat, heat causes fire, or nuisance trips. Either way, it could cause problems. But actually, the bus and the lugs on these types of panels here, they look like they're aluminum, but they're what you call aluminum clad. So technically, I don't have to use Penetrox with them, if I'm not mistaken. But as a rule of thumb, anytime I work with aluminum cable, I put the Penetrox, which is an anti-inhibitor. Penetrox is a brand name. Actually, the tube of Penetrox that I have that I use on this is from Ideal. But that's that. We'll take one more quick look at the main service panel so that you guys can compare and contrast between the two. And like I said, on your sub panel end, the main thing is, because the bonding jumper is in the main panel, service panel downstairs, and that's where the actual service starts at. That's whether it could be a disconnect switch. If it's an apartment building, it could be a meter bank with breakers or something in it. Wherever that service cable lands first, coming off your utility side, is where you install your bonding jumper. And all that is taking the neutral, your grounding conductor, and your grounding electrode conductor coming from your ground rod and from your hot or cold water or gas pipe, or however the jurisdiction having authority where you live have you guys do it. But that's where everything comes together and gets bonded together, and that's your main bonding jumper. Sub panel, no, you can't bond everything together here. The neutrals and the grounds need to be isolated and separated. So that's pretty much the story there. So we're going to take a walk downstairs and check out downstairs one last time, and I'll point everything out to you one more time, and that'll pretty much be it. All right, guys, we're going to just do a quick recap down here with this is your main service panel, and this is the panel we just installed here, which just goes up, the cable goes around up and upstairs. If you guys have any questions about installing a sub panel past other than what I showed you here, you can definitely leave a comment either on YouTube or on the website, the Electricians Hangout, and I'll do my best to answer your question as soon as possible. So thanks for joining me. Sorry I was so preoccupied. Like I told you guys, I had to work last night, and I got off from work, came here, started this job, so just a little bit tired and in a rush trying to get the job done so I can get out of here. So that's that, and I'll see you guys the next time. Thanks for joining me.